What's up guys, welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks. I'm your host Caleb. If you guys want to support the channel, you can pick up some Into the AM merch. You'll get 10% off your order whenever you click on the link in the description or pinned comments down below. Additionally, you can become a patron. Not only is it the best way to support the channel, but additionally you'll get say on what deck techs I cover. Special shout out to my high contributing patrons. Newsome, you rock. Now let's get into today's deck tech with Vihaan. And guys, this guy's just busted. Treasure tokens were never supposed to be creatures, and now that they are, they trigger everything a creature would trigger whenever you sacrifice them. Yes, we can turn them into lethal threats because they're creatures, so we can use stuff like shared animosity to turn our 10 treasure tokens into 10/10s, but that's not even the most broken part about this deck. We are going to set off all of our blood artist triggers. Since our creatures are assassins, we can go ahead and use species specialists and draw a card whenever we sacrifice a treasure token. That's Korvold, people, and Korvold is busted. So this is kind of like a Mardu deck that just generates a ton of value and kind of does some things that are not supposed to be legal. Let's take Pitiless Plunderer for instance. Since all of our treasure tokens are creatures, whenever we sacrifice those treasure tokens, we get another treasure token? Yeah, that's just not okay. Also, they get vigilance because why not? Give them vigilance while you're at it. This way we can shove in Bloodthirster. Bloodthirster is one of my favorite cards if you don't know. Since these things have vigilance, they're not going to tap whenever they attack, so they can enjoy all the additional combat steps that Bloodthirster is going to give us, and that's honestly going to end the game. So if that sounds like a deck tech you want to get into, let's get into it. Let's kick it off by talking about the treasure token generation in this deck. Olivia is going to be perfect. We're going to get upwards to 3 treasure tokens a turn, and then we'll have a solid way to buff our entire board state. Mahadi Emporium Master and Pitiless Plunderer are extremely broken in this deck, because we will always end up net even on our treasure tokens. We go to combat, they turn into creatures, we sacrifice them to cast any spells we want, and then Pitiless Plunderer and Mahadi Emporium Master will then replace those treasure tokens with more treasure tokens. Professional Facebreaker and Grim Hireling are also going to be really abusable in this deck. It's going to be pretty easy to ensure that we are connecting every turn because we will have a massive board state of treasure tokens. This means Grim Hireling can generate up to 6 treasure tokens a turn, and Professional Facebreaker can generate up to 3. Additionally, one's removal and one is card advantage. Marring the Killing Quill is amazing in this deck because the commander also turns our treasure tokens into assassins. So now again, we're generating more treasure tokens and drawing more cards just when we're dealing damage. Orochi is another solid way we can generate upwards to 3 treasure tokens a turn, assuming we connect with all of our creatures. Monologue Tax and Lotho just sit on the battlefield and generate us treasure tokens. Black Market Connections and Smuggler's Share, again, we're tying treasure token generation and card advantage together. Big Score and Unexpected Windfall dig a steep and generate more treasure tokens. Prosperous Partnership, I like this because our treasure token creatures do have vigilance, so even if we attack with them, we can also tap them to generate even more treasure tokens, generating us an even bigger army, so that's going to be pretty solid there. Jan Jansen, just another way to generate even more treasure tokens. The Titanic is pretty crazy here. You sacrifice it, generate an instant board state of 21 power that are also treasure tokens. Ancient Copper Dragon, this one's probably kill on sight. If they let this one resolve in this deck, you probably will just win the game. Reckless Endeavor, this card has shot up in price. I'm super surprised, but honestly, it's amazing. So go dig through your collection, see if you've got one. It's a board wipe, generates a ton of treasure tokens. It's just performed really well for me. Blood Money is super solid in this deck. We're going to wipe the entire board and replace it with a bunch of treasure tokens. That way next turn we can turn them online and start attacking people when they have an empty board state. Bottleclap Blast, a solid way to remove creatures while additionally creating more treasure tokens. There and back again. Now this one's not only ramp, but if we get Smog and manage to kill Smog, 14 treasure tokens on the battlefield is game ending in this deck. The Reaver Cleaver, we have a couple big boys in this deck, so the fact that we can just equip this, deal damage, and generate even more treasure tokens is going to be solid. And even at its low, maybe we just put this on a treasure token to generate 4 more treasure tokens, I'm still even fine with that. Ruthless Technomancer, again we've got some big boys in this deck, so casting this, sacrificing a creature, and generating more treasure tokens, we're going to take that, along with its very flexible recursion ability. Black Market Connections, all of our treasure tokens are creatures, so now whenever we die, we're going to put counters on our black market, and that's just going to give us a ton of mana to use on our turn. Smothering Tithe is absolutely insane in this deck. We are running some wheel effects, so if you manage to get a wheel off with Smothering Tithe on the battlefield, you will net 21 treasure tokens, and yes, that's probably just going to win us the game. Mastermind Plum, now this one's mostly in the deck for the card advantage, but in a pinch we can generate some treasure tokens with him. Zorn is just going to provide us additional treasure tokens. There's a lot of one-off ways to generate one treasure token here and there, so it's going to be very useful in this deck. Almost doubles our treasure tokens, not quite, but kind of. Goldspan Dragon is just going to allow our treasure tokens to add 2 mana instead of 1, and it's going to be a solid way to generate more treasure tokens. Moving on to the core of the deck, let's talk about Bloodthirster. Again, those treasure tokens have vigilance, so now we can attack every time Bloodthirster gives us an additional combat step. This guy can net us up to 3 additional combat steps, and that's going to net us a total of 4. Getting this guy off on the battlefield with a board state will just win us the game. Shared Animosity, again, pretty messed up here since all of our treasure tokens are assassins, so they're going to get buffed equal to the amount of treasure tokens we control. Again, this can very easily create a game-winning board state for us. Dictative Erebos and Grave Pact. I don't know if they were thinking about these kind of cards when they're like, hey, let's make treasure tokens creatures, but honestly, these cards are just messed up. You just sacrifice 5 treasure tokens. That's going to essentially be a board wipe and put you way ahead of your opponents. These cards are just going to be oppressive. Species Specialist, Dark Prophecy, and Weatherlight Completed are essentially Corvold in this deck. Whenever we sacrifice a treasure token, we're going to draw a card. I don't have to tell you that's already extremely broken. Smothering Abomination does exactly the same thing. As long as they're creatures, we sacrifice a treasure token, boom, we get to draw a card. Skull Clamp seems like a solid include here. All we have to do is equip it to our treasure tokens before we sacrifice them, and then we're drawing 2 cards off of them. We do have to pay a mana, but that's going to be very easy to do. Sanguinary Priest is actually going to be one of the best Blood Artist effects in this deck. Since it is a targeted damage ability, we can actually use it to take out our opponent's creatures, not to mention it does have lifelink, so we will still be gaining that life. Cruel Celebrant, Zulaport Cutthroat, Alice Ilcor, Blood Artist, all of your usual suspects for a Aristocrat strategy. The Meat Hook Massacre also will see play here. This is going to be a solid board wipe and again do that Blood Artist effects. We're also going to include Mirkwood Bats. Now we're going to deal damage whenever those treasure tokens enter the battlefield, and whenever we sacrifice them, this can just kill a table with the right board state. Illustrious Wanderglyph. Now not only does this generate a board state, but additionally all of our treasure tokens are going to be 5/5s instead of 3/3s. Mondrak's going to double up on all of our treasure tokens and just tokens in general. Lightning Greaves and Swiftfoot Boots will protect our commander. We're going to want to protect this guy because honestly he's going to be quite the target. Dread Return is just going to be some solid recursion in the deck. I couldn't pass up playing Dargo and the Balrog in this deck. Now we are going to be sacrificing a ton of treasure tokens, so these are only going to be 2 and 1 mana in the deck, and then we have 7/5 creatures that we can just start hitting people in the face with. That's going to be pretty useful. Crime Novelist essentially does double up on all of our treasure token mana, and this guy's just going to get massive as well. Wheel of Misfortune and Reforge the Soul, again, these have some really messed up abilities with Smothering Tithe. Honestly, with Smothering Tithe on the battlefield, Wheel of Misfortune, you could probably bet 1 life because no one's going to take that wheel. Inspiring Statuary is going to be a solid way we can turn all of our treasure tokens into even more mana, so now we don't even have to sacrifice them to utilize them. That's going to do it for today's deck tech, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell notification so you don't miss any of these deck techs. I am knocking these commanders out daily. Don't forget to check out Into the AM down below. And last but not least, I would like to thank my Newsome, Excessum, Chicken Salad, and Creator. You guys are amazing and really keep this channel going. With that being said, I hope this helped you in your deck building endeavors, and I will see you in the next one.